Good evening, UN Spacey Wolf Squadron. This is your Wolf Commander Wolf 10. I'm your werewolf. Tonight we have a requested topic to talk about tonight. Thanks to Victoria Fagbile, aka Red Sorceress, Red 13 Sorceress. Or is it Red Sorceress 13?
It was Red Sorceress. I think it was like 31.
Yeah, one of those. Anyway, she had requested in the community tab of when I asked what kind of topic have we not covered yet. So she requested the topic of when the lines blur between being inspired by something and what is a complete ripoff. So it's more talking about how one approaches a work being inspired by someone else's work when creating their own work, and or at least how to avoid ripping something off completely. And everybody here has their own idea of what that could entail, or what best advice to do to say not blur those lines together, or intermingle that stuff. Is that how you say it? Right? Intermingle. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with the Bear of the North temporarily for now until she goes to bed. Eloise, the viewer.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
We're joined by the Warrior of Light, Final Fantasy. Ooh, wow, tongue tied. Final Fantasy fan 12.
Greetings to viewers and fellow Final Fantasy fans. This is Final Fantasy Fan 12 here. Welcome back to another live stream of the UN Spacey Wolf Squadron. And today we will be discussing a writing topic between what work is an inspiration of another work versus a complete ripoff of one work.
She is the lovely Leia of Valor, Leia plus size.
Good evening, everyone. This is Leia Plus Size, your lovely Lady of Valor. And yes, we have a very interesting topic today that I think is timely about how something can inspire you, but you don't want to just make a carbon copy of that inspiration. And we're going to try to hopefully show the differences. So you're in for a good show.
And finally, we have the Schooner Tuna.
Coming at you live from a secret government facility buried deep underground, but as excellent Wi-Fi. This is Schooner Tuna. And yes, tonight we are going to be talking about what is the difference between inspiration and what is a blatant ripoff. So strap yourselves in, full speed ahead. Here we go.
So who wants to tackle this first? Who wants to headline this?
Well, I guess I can give it a start. I mean, I can give you a simple and a complex version. So I'm going to give you a simple version by using visuals. You've all seen Stranger Things, right?
Yes. Or no, just only heard about Stranger Things, actually. I never really watch any Netflix anymore.
Well, there is this part in Stranger Things where the kids are on their bicycles riding away and are being chased by government officials. What does this remind me of? Oh, that's right, E.T. Okay.
Yes.
And it's a direct homage, and it's clear they took inspiration from E.T. And you're thinking like, they're caught in the middle of the road. What are they going to do? Oh my gosh, 11 has telekinesis and she's going to make them fly. No, what does she do? She flips the van over with her telekinesis. That's the difference between inspiration. That's an inspired scene right there. And now we can go to Stranger Things yet again. What is a blatant ripoff? In Stranger Things season 3, there's a Russian guy who dresses like the Terminator, and he's just basically the Terminator ripped off wholesale. They they stop just short of shooting him, which just because he's a Russian guy and he'll die if he's shot. But in everything but name, he is like completely and totally unstoppable. That's a ripoff. So if you want to, does anybody want to take a here or no?
Finally, you want to go ahead?
I pretty much do basically have one easy ripoff that could easily. Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, Leia.
No, go ahead.
Okay. One easy ripoff that I could easily name off is it's the other sci-fi films straight after Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, where they try to capitalize off of that success, and if it was so successful, and yet anyone else could basically do that, and yet they basically did. And one such was even animated. Nostalgia Critic actually did an entire video, and it was actually one of his older videos. And then even oh yeah, in 2000, no, not 2001. Mystery Science Theater 3000 even did one from another science film, just trying to copy off the success of Star Wars, which, funny enough, actually features David Hasselhoff in there, and it was a very lesser known movie. Because that's how Mystery Science Theater 3000 is. They just like to poke fun at other films, just for what they are. Basically, a bunch of other B movies. But for one source of inspiration, it's actually a good time to talk about it from this one. It's actually on one of my future projects, that being based, which the entire plot, it's basically Fire Emblem Fates. So basically, the entire plot is literally Fire Emblem Fates. But yet, if it were basically a ripoff of Fates, that would have like literally the same exact characters and personalities, just with different names. And yet, the main villain would be the same as King Gowron, the main villain of Fates, and the main character is the protagonist, Corrin. And basically, the two nations, and while the two nations are basically similar, with Hato being based on feudal Japan, like Hoshido is, and Thana being based on medieval Europe, just like Nor, there's already a source of inspiration, but yet there's got to be some differences, especially with the differences of the characters that I have for the future project.
Oh, you're right about the Star Wars thing, because that's what I was going to bring up. Not exactly in the way you said, which I do totally agree. When A New Hope was the big smash that it was, everybody just started copying and pasting what A New Hope did. I would even say the original, not the reboot, but the original Battlestar Galactica, I think, was a Star Wars ripoff. Not to, a lot of people like the reboot, but
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Leia. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the original one that came out a couple of years after that the TV show is based on, was basically it was a Star Wars ripoff from head to toe in every single way, from the characters to that was I know now the reboot, which I wasn't a fan of, but I know a lot of people were, but I wasn't into it. A lot of people think was different, but the reboot that it was based off of, to me, was a ripoff. But if I could bring up Star Wars, I would say this. George Lucas originally wanted to do Flash Gordon. He loved Flash Gordon as a kid, and he wanted to do his own spin on Flash Gordon. But he could not get the rights. So instead of doing a ripoff of Flash Gordon, he went and wrote his own space adventure, hence Star Wars. So in his own way, he gave homage to what inspired him, but he didn't exactly copycat what Flash Gordon was about. Now, that is what you don't see going on today. In other words, he was inspired by Flash Gordon, but instead of trying to rip it off, he went back and said, okay, well, I can't get the rights to that, but I will do something that inspired me to do that. And so that's the difference between also being inspired, because when something inspires you, you write your own story, but the stories that came before that are your motivation. So he just didn't do Flash Gordon in outer space. He wrote his own character and his own journey. And so that is another thing that's what's missing right now. And I hear many directors say, well, I was inspired by Star Wars, or I was inspired by the Terminator, and I was inspired, but lately I'm seeing a lot of directors that are doing nothing but just ripping off what inspired them. They're not creating their own stuff. They're just repeating what they've already seen. Oh,
I totally agree, Leia, and I can point to one movie that is the guiltiest of all this sin, and that is The Batman. That is that is a blatant ripoff of Batman the Animated Series, ripped off wholesale. Batman the Animated Series, then you got a complete and total ripoff of Arkham Asylum. That movie is a big ripoff of Arkham Asylum. And even I can see somewhat of the Christopher Nolan ripoffs there, but the big thing that it ripped off wholesale was Seven. The Batman is Seven, and
Yeah.
that was ripped off completely from the film, which
Yeah.
is really sad because Seven is actually a beautiful, by
I
the way.
argue that was like the backbone inspiration of it.
Yeah.
And don't even
But-
give me that crap that it's based on Batman the Ego. No, Batman the Ego was a really good story. This movie, it's freaking dark. Like
Yeah.
it's shot dark.
You know, at one point, the Batman, and it's just going to be us staring at a blank screen for 1 hour and 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just said is why I didn't like the movie. This is
Yeah.
not Batman. This is exactly what you said. It's Seven in Batman's clothing. It's basically
Yeah.
what it is. It's another
Which-
movie, and that's why it didn't work.
And
because
the
that's not
armor
what
looks
Batman's all
so
about.
blocky on that too.
Well,
like,
and what
when you
what I
look at
thought,
the pecs on the
Yeah.
Batman suit,
Mhm.
like where it goes from like his, like just like from right here to his chest, it's like blocked off. Like it just like, it's like Gun Raiders. Gun Raiders is a VR battle royale game where the designs are literally so blocky, they almost look like it's from a freaking video game.
Well, just getting back to what I was saying, Seven though
Or
is
unless
a
if they're
great.
actually going to continue to do more to make Batman's costume look more like a gimp.
Yeah, I know. But Seven, believe it or not, is actually inspired by the detective and noir films back of the 1920s.
And so
And
you can
That's
ahead.
That's an inspirational movie. That is a movie that is aspiring, but what I love about Fincher is that he loves to put his own little spin on things. And Fincher, I will even say too, he is even admits that he likes the more darker forms of storytelling.
and that's okay because at least if that's what you like and you're attracted to, then that's what you do. But
Mhm.
like you said, that he knows how to. He's taking something that inspired him, but he's putting his own spin on it.
Yeah.
What we are getting are directors who are just redoing movies that they love.
Mhm.
It's okay
Yeah,
to
they're
love
just
those films.
they're just pretending to be somebody that they're not.
Let's get
Actually,
into how a creator
get-
will approach
to-
homaging inspiration when
Yeah.
they see something and they get inspired by it. Let's get into that real quick.
I'll say this in Superman Returns, it does like to pay a lot of homages to the Richard Donner film, but it is its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what else. Well, I mean, yeah, I'll say this too. George Lucas, even because going back to Star Wars, using Star Wars as our baseline. Thank you, Leia. I love it. He paid a lot of homages to Akira Kurosawa films. For example, I believe in one of his movies, I think it was either Hidden Fortress or Seven Samurai, where one of the samurais cuts off another man's arm and it cuts to the shot of the man's arm. Very similar. And George Lucas paid homage to that in A New Hope, except in A New Hope, it's an alien arm with a blaster. So yes, so there is a clear difference there. That's an homage though.
Right. Well, you can clearly see that homage is okay, but you can clearly see the line between an homage and not just copy and pasting. Yeah, it's very well known to people that Kurosawa films were a big influence on him, as well as Flash Gordon, because I can tell in the way, especially when you're dealing with Obi-Wan and how he carries himself and how he's dressed and the design of the lightsabers, like swords.
Yeah,
So
because
you can-
the Jedi and the Sith are meant to be based on pretty much samurai, even though they're pretty similar to Taoist monks, because many implementations of the Force are pretty similar to the Tao and Taoism.
Well,
especially
yeah.
due to the light and dark sides of the Force. Hell, even Darth Vader's helmet design from the dome piece is actually a samurai helmet in Hidden Fortress.
And I think what I like about the original trilogy, and that's what I loved about the prequels too, is that the prequels didn't rip off the original trilogy wholesale. They actually paid homage to them and actually found a unique way of telling the same thing but in a different context. Like, for example, here's what most people missed, is that the Star Cruiser that's first introduced in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is the exact same make and model of the Star Cruiser that's being chased in A New Hope.
Right.
And but it's the two very different things, because in this universe, in the original trilogy, the Star Cruiser is on the run from a Star Destroyer, whereas a ship that is massively bigger than they are. But in Revenge of the in Phantom Menace, boy, I can talk. In Phantom Menace, this small, seemingly harmless ship is going towards a big starship with we're the big guys here. So it's like that mirror reverse. It's poetry, but it rhymes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's very true there. And right now, my mind is thinking, because I was trying to think of some other examples of directors that are inspired by something, but they don't copycat what inspires them. So George Lucas was the first one that
I got another one too. Quentin Tarantino.
Oh yeah. Oh, big time. Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's very much inspired, but he has his own method of doing it.
Yeah, that's why I think that makes his films unique, because you can see the inspiration. He talks about the inspiration. He talks about the movies that inspired him, particularly the Asian market, or Asian films play a lot of roles, especially when you look at Kill Bill 1 and 2. You see a lot of that in his style of filmmaking, but he does it again. These are not George Lucas and Quentin Tarantino do not say, well, I want to go and remake Hidden Fortress because I loved Hidden Fortress. Inspired me. It inspired me to create my own stories, but I'm inspired by the storytelling that they are telling. And that's why, let's say for Star Wars, like you brought up, Scooney, we got so many bad sci-fi movies after Star Wars because they were trying to copy what they saw instead of developing their own thing. So I'm trying to think of other directors who saw Star Wars and went off and did their own things, but they told it in a different way.
Can I just say, though, that as much as we harp on how bad that was, I'm actually so happy that those movies came out of the woodwork, because we got some awesomely terrible films. And I just...
That's the entire reason, really.
They are just so bad, they're awesome.
Yes, they're so bad. They're awesome, but they are to give us a warning of that we should watch them so we learn not what to do when we want to create our own stuff.
Exactly. Well, and this is the big mistake that everybody makes. I mean, George Lucas has even said it himself. Star Wars is not a sci-fi film. It's fantasy. It very much is space fantasy.
And that's what a lot of, I would say, normies and non-Star Wars fans don't get. They think Star Wars and Star Trek. I don't tell you how it raises my blood pressure to 1,000 over 800 when they keep saying that Star Wars and Star Trek, what's the difference? It's the same thing.
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
No, it is not. Star Trek is 100% bona fide science fiction.
Star Wars, on the other hand, is literally science fantasy.
Yeah. And that's what they don't get. That's the secret sauce. That's what I think made it so successful and such a classic, and it can't be replicated today.
You want another example of a star fantasy, even though it's a video game? Look at Phantasy Star.
Oh yeah. Well, but
Star Ocean.
Well, and if also we can use Star Wars as an example as a blatant ripoff. Look no further than The Force Awakens. Everything is completely and totally ripped off of the original Star Wars, even shot by shot. And it's just basically saying, and it says,
even if you notice in The Force Awakenings, when you look at it, there's a lot of reference from the originals, and yet none of the reference includes anything from the prequels.
Nope.
It's just all episode 4 and episode 5.
Oh yeah. There's only one, exactly, and that's a ripoff wholesale. I mean, even the scene where the Millennium Falcon is being chased by the First Order. Oh, I'm sorry, the Empire, the Diet Empire.
Yep. and using a lot more Nazi imagery this time.
Yeah. Using a lot more Nazi imagery, but the scene where the the Millennium Falcon is being chased is ripped off wholesale from the fight sequence from Star Wars: A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
You guys just
It's pretty
named.
much like an entire video. There's an entire video about this of calling the sequel trilogy, calling the Star Wars anti-trilogy, because it's literally anti-everything. The Force Awakens is literally anti-prequels because it's very clearly showing that the entire trilogy itself, is anti-prequels because it just runs away from all that, but yet it causes a lot more problems than it really solves. Like Han Solo continuing to make bad deals with criminals, despite that a lot of his character development from the original trilogy. And apparently all that was literally for nothing.
Well, they
Luke
threw all that
in
the window.
episode 8, where he suddenly becomes a quitter. Instead of just like, I'm not gonna kill my father, but I'm willingly to kill my own nephew in his sleep because he carries exactly like my own father, who I said that I won't kill.
Exactly.
I know, it's brooding Jake Skywalker.
Yeah.
The minions that idiots that Kathleen Kennedy hired for that didn't write. They simply sat down all night and watched the class. I call them class 6 episodes, whatever you want to call it. You guys know what I'm talking about. They sat down there and looked at that and said, how can we rewrite that and destroy it? There is nothing in those films that's inspirational. It basically was them sitting there. And I think really that's the way the whole Disney machine works. You're not just describing Star Wars. You are describing all of the properties and IPs that Disney has wrapped up. As they simply look, they bring these writers and say, okay, let's copy that writing. Let's copy that word for word, but let's just change it, and make it stupid. And
that's exactly what Disney's just not going to be doing with Taika Waititi's Star Wars project that they literally just announced on their Twitter.
They keep announcing it, and then they're saying, "Oh, we'll get there someday."
They're still going to go through with that.
Of course they are. Of course they are. I mean, look what they're doing now with Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, with Indy. Oh my goodness, yeah.
They're already. You can tell.
Your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah. It breaks your heart, but at the same time, even Kingdom of the... Here's the funny thing, though. The only thing that I'm going to laugh at is that this movie's going to make Kingdom of the Crystal Skull an improvement.
Exactly, yeah. Everyone's been saying that.
Yes, I think it is. It's going to make me have more respect for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'll just say it. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, for as bad as it is, it's, it was clear by the time that movie came out. I think even George Lucas and Steven Spielberg both admitted the series had run out of steam, but let's just have fun with this crap.
Exactly.
Let's do the dumbest thing in the world that we can do. Let's nuke Indy and put him in a fridge.
As if he was in a freaking Fallout game.
And let's bring in aliens. Oh,
a different direction. Do you think that Lara Croft and Uncharted were also progenitors after the Indiana Jones?
Oh, I'll always say, I'll say that, yeah.
A lot of people like to think, like to say that Uncharted is a ripoff of Tomb Raider. It's its own thing, though.
It's its own thing. I can see the homages to Tomb Raider for the puzzle challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
Nathan Drake and Lara pretty much almost have like a bit of similar characterizations. Like they're both, not only both of them being treasure hunters, but both of them are kind of thrill seekers.
Yeah, but the difference
between the Tomb Raider games later on kind of borrowed from the Uncharted series,
which is kind of interesting because you get almost like a bastard creation.
And funny enough, while we're talking about Indiana Jones being influenced into other video games, he was even used in the Castlevania games with particularly the first Belmont, Simon Belmont, where the main weapon being a whip, even though it's a chain whip. That's actually inspired by Indiana Jones from that. Hell, Simon Belmont's entire design was based on Conan the Barbarian. Because apparently, what's not a good video game icon of masculinity, then not even inspired by freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, you also, as much as popular as they were, the Mummy movies were kind of taking a page out of Raiders of Indiana Jones. I think the director even said that.
But in all the good ways, I feel.
Yeah, okay,
that it's a period piece where which is also why Indiana Jones and even the Mummy movies, it's always good to do period piece movies with the fantasy element thrown in, because it's at that point where technology hasn't technically really gotten to the way it is today. It's that perfect blend of fantasy and reality.
I was reading Draco Nightmare's comment. I have not seen the rebooted of the reboot Tomb Raider, but I heard the rebooted of the rebooted. I call it like that because of Tomb Raider was not as good as the Angelina Jolie take on it, which I liked. I liked the first two Tomb Raider movies, and then they made the rebooted of the rebooted, which I don't know why they rebooted of the rebooted. I guess she just was. It just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't manly enough of the rebooted Tomb Raider, because Angelina Jolie. When I first saw it, I thought it was a good film. I liked it. I enjoyed it very much. It, like you guys said, it had that Indiana Jones feel to it, but it puts itself in its own. It took its own spin on it.
Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider, which I liked, is that it departs a little bit from it departs exponentially, because Tomb Raider Lara Croft is, she's a rich girl, but how did she get rich? Because her father was a treasure hunter, and that's what she is. She's a thrill seeker. She's looking for that next challenge, not so much because she's looking at the riches. She wants the adventure. Whereas Indiana Jones, he's a school teacher. He doesn't come from money. He's going on these treasure hunts because he likes the treasure and the history in which the treasure represents.
But that's just what you just said is why, in some ways, it's not really a ripoff.
They're not related. They're not. It's not a ripoff. It's an homage, yes, to people who go to exotic locations finding treasure or artifacts that are cursed with some kind of a supernatural element. But what Tomb Raider did right was that it decided that they were going to do a full-on time travel. But you find out that the time travel element that's in there, she wants the time travel element because she wants to save her dad. Whereas Indiana Jones, he wants the Ark of the Covenant because of its historical value. He doesn't even believe in any of the supernatural elements that are going on. And that's really what I loved about Indiana Jones, is that whether Indy admits it or not, supernatural forces are moving and trying to help him along the way.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on the subject of action girls, Charlie's Angels.
Oh yeah.
We're looking at whether looking at the original show, like the original spy show Charlie's Angels, or the early 2000s Charlie's Angels, there are a lot of inspirations from that mostly ever since the early 2000s Charlie's Angels, when that's how a lot of people know about them. Because Charlie's Angels originally was like it was like almost like an unknown, or actually kind of like an overlooked spy show. But then ever since the early 2000s movie, holy crap, there's a lot of them, like YRP, Yuna, Riku, and Pain from Final Fantasy X-2, which is the trio of girls that are spies. Totally Spies, if any of you ever seen that one.
I've heard of it.
Perfect Dark, even though it's a single lady as a spy. If any of you ever played either one of those games.
I get what you're saying, though. It's the Trinity, but the female-led Trinity, and they're badasses. But I think what I loved about both the original Charlie's Angels and the movies that came out is that, they were these really cool badasses, but they also had a social life.
Mm-hmm. Right. And this is even the thing, even with James Bond, now going on the subject for male spies, like someone made this comparison, I forgot who it was, but actually made this comparison with this analogy between Charlie's Angels and James Bond. Men like to be like James Bond, women like to be with James Bond. In contrast, Charlie's Angels, men want to be with the Charlie's Angels, but women want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And that was the thing too. All of us wanted to be Charlie because look at those angels.
The first film with Barrymore, Lucy Liu, and Cameron Diaz, I actually liked. It is based on the show that was out in the 70s. Surprisingly, I was never a big Charlie's Angels fan. I knew about it, but I was more into the solo one, Wonder Woman, Bonnet Woman. Those were my thing. But Charlie's Angels was a big thing. I liked the I was reading Red. So we're going to get to that in a minute about novels and movies, because I got a lot to say about that. But the first film captured the spirit of the TV show. That's what I liked about the one in the film with Diaz and Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu, is because they didn't take it seriously. It's a movie you can't take seriously. That's what they had to put in there. That's what made it fun. 2, they kind of went a little out, went over the top a little bit. Now, when we get to that one, that really bad one, what was it?
A little bit.
Well, the whole lot. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Somebody lost
all that ass slapping. I mean, I like a little good ass slap here and there, but damn, that was far too much to my liking. Shit.
Yeah, I would agree.
And all the death-defying stunts that they were doing through all that. My goodness, that production was weak compared to the first one.
Yeah, somebody should have reeled in the director on the second one. It seemed like they just said, "Hey, go do whatever you want to do, and the audience will believe it." I'm like, okay, come on now. Some of this is just a little bit. Come on.
I think what bothered me more than anything is that Charlie retires at the beginning of the new movie, and it turns out Charlie's the bad guy. Really? Really?
Wait, what?
Really? Oh yeah, this is the new movie. Charlie retires at the beginning of the movie, handing the reins over to Elizabeth Banks, who's going
only to become the bad guy.
It's revealed. No. This is what I loved, because this is how woke movies pull the bait and switch always. All evidence is pointing to Elizabeth Banks being the bad guy, but surprise, surprise, it's the old white guy who's actually the villain.
Yep, Patrick Stewart. You all forgot he was in that movie, did you?
No, I knew it was him, and quite frankly, now it's very, very clear he's only taking these roles because he's looking for a quick buck.
Yeah, I was about to say he must have needed a paycheck.
The last time I ever saw him,
yes.
The only time I ever really saw him put his all into an acting performance, the last movie he did that was Logan.
Yeah, that's what everybody said. Logan was his last great
seems
acting.
Like he's tired now.
He's really tired.
At this point, even then, I mean, he even talks about when he's filming these cameos and how he's only here for there. But my God, is he making money?
But he looks like it's time to kind of hang it up a bit.
I know.
I think he has to hang it up. I think he has one more season of his show Picard, but now he looks like I think.
Can I just say, Patrick Stewart had the ultimate act to bow out with some dignity. That because I've heard apparently there's robots involved in Picard. I don't know what happened, but by the end of the first season, Captain Picard supposedly, quote unquote, dies, and then they put his consciousness in a robotic body. That is exactly like his old one, the old man. I'm like, oh, come on, Patrick. You could have transferred his consciousness into a younger body of yourself, could have hired an actor, and then bing, bang, boom, you could have continued as Picard. But no. You make a perfect replica of his old man body. I think even Picard himself would say, yo, what the hell?
Yes.
Yeah, because apparently they're still keeping around Patrick Stewart as Picard, because I think probably the next season of Picard, they're gonna bring back all the TNG cast, all of them.
You want to hear a good old ripoff that was around the 2000s?
Oh yes, please, yes.
The One.
Oh my gosh, yes. That was I'm sorry, but that was the far-fetched theatrical plot. That was basically
it was its own thing for sure, but when you really go through the motions,
you could see the Matrix ripoffs.
No,
you could see the Matrix ripoffs.
It's not Matrix. It's not Matrix.
Really? Oh, sounds like
it's not Matrix.
No, it's not the Matrix.
The slow-mo was the distraction to think that it's the whole Matrix thing. No, it's Highlander.
Oh,
I should have. When you said The One,
I will be the one.
Yep. I did like, but it was basically Highlander
Yulon!
but with martial arts.
I'm nobody's bitch. You are mine. I don't need to know you. You only need to know me. I will be the one.
And I love the fact. I love how the
Suffocation, no bleeding. Don't give a fuck if I go out bleeding. This is my last resort.
I'm gonna say that Papa Roach last resort for the end scene where he's beating the crap out of everybody on the prison
losing
planet.
my mind. Somebody please turn off fire. Nothing's alright.
You've got Final's reading a book.
Man,
Then
they abused Papa Roach and Giant Pool throughout that fucking movie. They used that whole.
Basically, the one
song.
here's what I'm gonna say though. It's that the one is the Highlander, but a martial arts version of it. It's martial arts Highlander.
And deals in parallel universes.
Mm-hmm. And I even thought it was kind of cool how there was a real theme of Taoism in that one. The movie could have been good, but it was relegated to an action flick. I think if this movie took its time, it could have really been something unique.
Anyways, since if you do want to talk about Matrix knockoffs, even though this movie, I think it came out before the Matrix was even a thing, but it's still a really damn awesome movie. Equilibrium.
They like to say
yeah.
that, but I don't put that in the same boat as the Matrix. A lot of people think
Yeah.
that because
Well,
they
I think the
walk around
marketing
with-
campaign, the marketing didn't help it either because the cover for Equilibrium is two men in trench coats holding guns, very Matrix
Christian
style.
Bale and damn it, what's his name?
Tyrese Gibson? No, not Tyrese
Ray
Gibson.
Diggs.
Damn it. Tay Diggs. He was in How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
No, he was Boromir in.
Oh,
Lord of the
Sean.
Rings. Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Yeah, and apparently he always dies at the beginning.
that is Sean
We
Bean's
got-
face.
Every single movie
That's
that he's
kind
in,
of
at the beginning,
becomes
he
Sean
always
Bean.
dies.
All right. Be
Sean-
honest. Be honest. Sean Bean.
Critical
Drinker
Drinker even made a joke about this when he was doing an entire video about that. Because Sean Bean always dies at the beginning.
He is your go-to guy for early death. That is.
Yeah.
said
But
to be
here's another
early
thing.
death. Oh,
Yeah,
Sean
here-
Bean.
But here's another thing too: is that if you ever want a memorable character, get Sean Bean, because everybody remembers every time he dies. Now everybody says that his most epic death was Game of Thrones, but for me, his most epic death was in The Island when he says, "My name is Lincoln." Ewan McGregor. That was a brilliant scene. Anyway, but a blatant
I
rip off.
didn't see it.
Oh, it's a good movie. Sean Bean's the bad guy in The Island. Ian McGregor, all
Okay.
these.
That's the
Ian
Michael
McGregor.
Bay version.
Yeah, it's like a Michael. Yeah, it's. Oh, by the way, you're gonna love this movie because Obi-Wan Kenobi and Black Widow are in this movie together.
I keep confusing her with Charlize Theron. I thought she was in it, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Scarlett
Scarlett-
Johansson was in it.
Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor are in this movie together, and I recommend it. Basically, it's
I also
kind of
recommend watching the original Clonus.
yeah. But again, those are like remakes. What I like about certain remakes and what I don't like about other remakes.
Oh wait, Sean Bean was in GoldenEye?
Oh, of
Yep.
course he was in Yeah, he was in James Bond
Trevelyan.
GoldenEye. He was
Oh, yes.
Alec Trevelyan.
Yeah, he's the one that says, what does he say? Why don't you just die like a good boy or something like that? When he's trying to kill him.
Why can't you just be a good boy and
Boy
die?
Yeah, why can't you just boy
And then
die?
James
Yeah.
Bond's perfect retort is, "You first."
Yeah.
Draco, there's a lot of movies surprisingly where Sean Bean never dies.
Yep.
Like if you guys know that there's a sizable amount of times he dies in the movie, there's a sizable amount of times he lives throughout the movie and a series. Surprisingly.
I have
didn't
to
die
see
in The
ones where
Nope.
I have to see the
Didn't
ones
die in
where
that
he's
one.
lived because I have seen all the ones that you're right. He didn't die in The Martian. You're right about that. That's the first Sean Bean film I think I've seen where he didn't die in. Okay, I'm
But he
gonna
did
I
try
don't
get
to
even
fired.
usually look for him to
Ryan.
die. I'm just usually looking for him to just stay in the movie at least a little bit longer before he
Yeah.
goes.
Well, I'll say this: in Lord of the
Get
Rings,
enough of
the
your Sean
Fellowship,
Bean before he goes away.
his death was honorable. That was very honorable because he redeemed himself and he went down like a hero. He didn't go out like a little slob.
Now,
He
are
went
y'all
down
ready for a
fighting to the end.
controversial topic of ripoff like a
Yeah,
skewed, blurred
yeah.
line of a ripoff or possibly just a coincidence? Because we
Okay.
could talk about those too. There's several works there, but the one notorious one that a lot of people tend to always go out of their way to shun it because they believe it's a ripoff of another product, which would be the Hunger Games.
Yeah. I know exactly where this is going, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see it.
Bury the freaking hatchet already.
I don't know. I don't
We
see
know
it.
Battle Royale was made before Hunger Games.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. But you're talking two very different things.
Well,
Okay.
like I said, you at this point, most of us tend to just hand wave it as pure coincidence. It's like a lot, like believe it or not, stuff like that does happen. Stuff like that does happen where you create a product and kind of find out somebody else that created a product that's completely similar to you. Only difference is that the way how you wrote it this time, but they tend to sound a bit similar to one another. So
Yeah,
in
it's
a
like
way,
parallel plots, like Fort Snake's parallel plots, a series that he does on
Well,
his channel.
exactly. And it's some people even say this too, Dark City and the Matrix.
I don't. What are they saying? The Matrix ripped off Dark City.
Either or that the Matrix ripped off Dark City but did it better. It's one of
Well,
those. I don't see. Here's the thing: Dark City
I
and the
don't.
Matrix are two very different. Are a same is a same of genre of storytelling, but two very different directions in where they went.
See, that's the thing. Something can be in the same genre, but it doesn't mean they're ripping off each
okay.
other.
Before we move forward, Leia, have you heard of Battle Royale?
I've heard of it. Yes,
Speaking of Japanese productions,
I've heard of
are you
it. Yes.
okay? Just want to make sure
Yeah, I've
because
heard of it.
a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people tend to compare Battle Royale with Hunger Games a lot. It's like I said, it sounds dissimilar. It just sounds dissimilar. You know?
It
Yeah, and
sounds in theory.
that's also a big influence to how that term later is now used for video games now.
Yeah.
Now here's where similarities break away from each other. Here's where similarities separate themselves. Hunger Games don't just use teenagers. Sometimes they use adults. Sometimes adults tend to join up and make a career out of of participating in the Hunger Games. Remember that, guys. If you guys
Yeah.
read the book.
Yeah.
Whereas Battle Royale, it's the adults that employ the children, just the adults employing the children against their will. And Hunger Games, the number of contestants is far fewer than that of Battle Royale because Battle Royale would take a whole class.
Takes an entire class, and in Japan, the high school class, not just a classroom, the quote unquote high school class. So that's everybody in a high school class, which usually doesn't range from 14 to 15, but more to like 25 to 40. So an entire class, yeah, in Battle Royale. And they don't broadcast it, if I'm remembering the manga correctly. They don't, because this was a book, then it became a manga.
Dubious one too, and we'll talk about that one in a bit. Adam from Your Movie Sucks actually cleared the air on that one, and he did famously. But go ahead.
The book, it was a book, a manga, and then a cult classic movie. But if I remember correctly, they don't broadcast this whole thing because the whole series focuses on each of the students and their experiences during the battle royale. And with whereas in the Hunger Games, the broadcast is made live to everybody for the entertainment purposes, because Suzanne Collins even said she was calling back. It was like Perseus and the Maze or the Roman gladiatorial arena. Whereas in Battle Royale, like I said, they don't broadcast it only to the dictatorship, or in the Battle Royale, I think it's called the party headquarters, because the totalitarian emperor just loves watching this stuff.
Plus, Battle Royale has the added effect of this is a control measure for the parents, to keep the parents to keep the working class from ever
rebelling.
Thank you.
Or speaking out against the regime, because the government at any given moment, and that was the thing too. This was merely a propaganda tool, telling everybody, and they don't call it Battle Royale; they call it the program.
Mm-hmm.
And I love in both the manga and in the movie, it's so psychotic. The class wakes up; they're fitted with the
novel.
Yep, and the novel. Class wakes up. And oh my God, they're on the program because they've just been hooked up to these explosive necklaces on their neck. And of course, the instructor comes in, because this is the element of dark humor that I love in Japan. The instructor comes in and he talks to them like a teacher. He says, "Okay, class, today you're going the program. You're going to go in the so-and-so perimeter here, and you're going to have to kill each other. We're going to give you some nice little goodie bags. Everything is going to be so well and fun."
Yeah, considering everyone's going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And they're all, and I love it too. They're all freaking out, and this, as the instructor is saying, "Okay, now, so each of you are going to file up and leave the room." And this one girl just yells out, "I can't be here. No, please, don't put me through this." He takes out a gun and he shoots her dead, and he says, "Please, don't interrupt the teacher. Now, if you have questions, just raise your hands."
She died because she asked a stupid question, and
that's right.
And she was also talking out of turn.
Yeah, speaking out of turn.
He warned them. He warned them the first time, and then when she asked a dumb question, or at least what anybody in the audience would perceive as a dumb question, he threw a knife in her head in the movie. I don't know what method he killed her in the book or the manga.
Yeah, and
that shit had me laughing, but also gasping. Because I was like, hang on, keep going.
Exactly. And what's interesting about Battle Royale that's very different in the Hunger Games is that when a character, especially in the manga, which I really liked, is that every time a student died, they went back and showed the reader the student's backstory. So then you learned everything about this character. You learn about their tragic life, or their lives, haven't really been going as idealistically. And then, and so then you just feel for them when they die. It's like, oh, come on, man. Don't make me feel for this guy. He's dead. Or this girl, she's dead. Oh, it's brutal.
So let me make it very clear.
Yep.
Jennifer Lawrence did not create the Hunger Games or the book that the other one you just said. So we're understanding on that. Okay, so it's been the way you guys are talking to me. You have thoroughly convinced me she is not the first in the universe to do a Hunger Games or the Dark City, the other story that you just told me.
Yeah,
that was not her either. Okay, well, we got that very clear. Good. We all are on the same page.
I could name somebody so much sooner than Jennifer Lawrence, and that's Adam West's the Adam West Batman Batgirl. She was the first one. She's the first female badass.
Oh yeah. Yes. I would agree with you 100%.
And Charlie's Angels. Of course, we have Beatrix Kiddo from Kill Bill. We have Ellen Ripley. We have Sarah freaking Connor.
Xena.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Ellen Ripley.
I know, exactly. We just said that. Yeah, Ellen Ripley. I mean, and that's not even counting the Powerpuff Girls. No one's going to beat those girls.
Yeah. And in Wonder Woman, yeah, there's so many that I don't know what. I'm not going to get into that because we're going to stay on our topic. But
No, Jen. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna say it. J-Law, you done fucked up.
Yes. Yes. Oh, big time. She has done big time. And even, even Viola Davis, who I had respect for, but now she's just, I thought maybe she would sit there and tell her, well, I don't know about that. But like I said, they all live in a bubble. So what matter could we bring that up with? But I was also going to say,
oh, go ahead, Leia. Go ahead.
I was going to say that the ripoff of the Hunger Games to me is not what was it called?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale is not the ripoff. The ripoff was all the other 50,000 young adult novels that came after the Hunger Games.
So yeah, that's a unique form of ripoff.
That was ripping off. Yeah, that's very different.
Well, and we got it. And no offense, I mean, the Hunger Games may have reignited it, but let's face it, it was Harry Potter. Everybody was trying to cash in and be the next Harry Potter. Now, I'll say this for the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games definitely not only did it break the Harry Potter curse, but it was able to do so in a very creative way. I won't deny that those movies were good. Those movies were very good. I do think it was what introduced me to the books, which I thought were even better than the movie. So I'm like, why can't we get, I don't know, hey, HBO, you want strong independent females? Why not, I don't know, make a TV show of the Hunger Games here? I mean, look, you've got all the books and look at that. A fixed number of episodes, we can actually make a really good adaptation here. But of course, the woke ideologues will never make it right.
Maze Runner was for the boys. It wasn't
Oh, I hate the I actually
Maze Runner is young adult for boys. It ain't copying shit.
Nope. The Maze Runner. I'll even say this: the Maze Runner movies were even pretty good.
They actually had a completed trilogy, and
I know.
For better or worse, a lot of people didn't like the third movie.
Well, the third movie, it was because the audience that had stayed with them the first few times had kind of gone away. And the problem was the third movie was delayed because the main star got into a car accident.
I thought he got hurt during a stunt.
Well, either a car accident or he got hurt and he was rehabilitating himself. So I showed my support when the third movie came out and I watched it. Yeah, it probably couldn't live up to the hype, especially after being absent for so long. But it was a satisfactory conclusion, in my opinion.
Well, you were right about Harry Potter, because when Harry Potter became a big thing, there were ripoffs everywhere, including one. And my nephew loved, but I thought it was a ripoff. But my God, he was in love with it. I think that's where Selena Gomez got her start. The Wizard of Waverly Place. Holy smokes! I could not say anything against that show because my nephew, when he was that age, was so in love with Selena Gomez. So I could not say anything. But I felt the Wizards of Waverly Place was definitely, that is ripping off. That was on Disney. And that to me was, and I know this show because when I babysat him, that's all he wanted to watch. But when I saw it, I'm like, that ain't nothing but a Harry Potter ripoff. That's all it is. It's a Harry Potter ripoff. It's when Harry Potter came out, America was trying to find its American version of that story, which was young teen kids with magical, mystical powers.
Mm-hmm.
And America was trying and never could capitalize on that because
you know what, Leia? Leia, I think you hit the nail right on the head. That was the Hunger Games was America's response to Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. That was the response to it. So they said, okay, we will get another popular novel, which is in 100-degree different direction from what this one, but our protagonist will be a female. And yeah, there you go, right there. So that was their answer. That was their answer to Harry Potter. That you're right. That was the answer to that. Now, I like what you said. See, this is where I think streaming has a place. Streaming, I think, is good for adapting books to a visual medium because you have more time to stretch the story out and tell the story. Whereas in a movie, you have to edit or delete or take out to condense it down to a running time. So like you said, I don't understand if I'm the head of Warner Brothers or Zaslav, I'll get that later, I would say, let's do a Harry Potter TV show, but we're going to stretch it out more. And then maybe we can tell more that the movies didn't get a chance to tell.
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe can't play him anymore because here's the thing. this is a character that can be recast. What is Hollywood's deal against recasting actors? Daniel Clift has aged. They've all aged out of this role, but now we have a chance to find new actors to play these characters. But now we can stretch it out, and we can tell more that maybe the movies couldn't tell. Here you go, right there.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah.
a
That's the
movie,
medium.
a TV series that actually ages with its characters.
Right. Yes. We watch these kids grow up as the stories progress. And then you have more to tell. Now, that's where I think I still feel like studios put too much of their focus on streaming, and it's hurting them. But if you're going to stream, a novel would be better, because then you don't have to take out as much. You've got more shows. So if you're going to do a streaming show that's 8 or 9 episodes, well, there's your book right there, and then you move on to the next chapter, and then you recast your new actors, and then you go right there. But studios are dumb. That's what I would greenlight. I would say, instead of doing a Harry Potter ripoff, let's bring it down to streaming and novelization. You would bring in subscribers, you would bring in merchandise, because we know merchandise is connected, and you would bring in that young audience. Because here's the thing. I want to go back to Stranger Things for a minute. I have tried very hard to get into that show, but for some reason I'm not connecting with that show. Maybe because of the reasons maybe it's glad that you brought out that what's not a ripoff, what it is, but I feel a lot of it is nostalgia bait.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like the nostalgia bait done. I don't know if it's done correctly, but it's
It was like
something
that in
is
the
missing.
second season.
More in the second season, because I'm
More so
trying
the
hard. I've
second
been binging. Okay,
Seasons 2 and 3 were definitely nostalgia bait. I will say this: season 4 season 4 is worth it, because talk about a group of creators who actually listen to their audience. Because Stranger Things season 4, wow, a great season.
All right, I'm going to pay attention to that. Then I'm going to pay attention to season 4. So far, I haven't been thinking,
because season 4 really was like, okay, let's get back to basics. We're going back to basics, and we're not going to just rip off the first season wholesale. We're going to do an in-universe retcon in a believable way, and we're going to have that retcon be the present focus of telling 2 different stories. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. And it's not ripping. A lot of people say, oh, gosh, if the first season was basically E.T., but with an alien aesthetic there.
Yeah.
Season 4 is a Nightmare on Elm Street, but an homage to it, not a ripoff.
All right, I'm going to check out season 4, and I'll tell you what I think. I'm going to check out season 4. But don't you think, maybe I'm wrong, but don't you think that, I know everybody loved Ghostbusters Afterlife, but didn't that seem like Stranger Things on the big screen?
It did, yes.
It felt like it, yeah. Even the cast from Stranger Things, they're all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I didn't catch on to it. I mean, I will give it credit. And that's another difference. Here we go into sticking to the topic. We all know that disaster that was Ghostbusters 2016 with the all-female, that crap. That is a blatant, stupid ripoff. Mm-hmm. But at least with Afterlife, even though I wasn't in love with it, again, I thought it was a ripoff of Stranger Things. I will give it credit because it does pay homage to the original Ghostbusters, and that's what saves it for me. Is it does pay homage, whereas 2016 was mocking it.
Whereas Afterlife was, this is the apology. Here is the last Ghostbusters movies for the Ghostbusters fans. Now we are finally free, and that's really what we wanted from Ghostbusters 2016. We wanted
They want Ghostbusters 3.
We wanted a conclusion to the franchise, and Ghostbusters Afterlife delivered. Is it the best? No. But given what we've been getting, this was a faithful adaptation and an homage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give it that credit because I wasn't in love with it as everybody was. I was like, it felt like Stranger Things. It felt like an extended Stranger Things episode. But what saved it for me is what you just explained. It does give it homage to the original Ghostbusters. So that's what saved it. It was smart for them to do that because had they not done that, I would have said, well, this is just nothing but a ripoff of Stranger Things. Again, to me, and maybe you guys can see this. The problem, because everybody's talking about how bad movies are right now. The problem is you get these directors who are not making things their own. They're inspired, and there's nothing wrong with being inspired, being homage, being tribute. But you got to find a way to make it your own stuff, and they just don't know how to do that. I don't know
Like,
what they're
find your
learning in
own
film school.
voice.
Name your favorite homages.
Oh
Favorite-
wow.
Somebody can go before me. I got to think for a minute.
Hmm.
Or does somebody have an answer ready? Because I got to think.
Hmm.
Homage. What is a favorite homage? Okay, Jeopardy music playing. Okay, what is favorite homage?
Hmm.
Favorite homage.
I give
I
you
got
guys
one. Okay, go ahead, Wolf.
Balto.
Oh,
What?
Balto.
What
The
was
scene where they're
Balto about?
trekking. It's the sled dog team that trekked through the snow to bring that medicine to the sick children.
Mm-hmm.
It was also animated, and it had shitty sequels afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
But
Mm.
we don't acknowledge the sequels.
Yeah.
Let's start. Let me tell you the homage that,
Actually,
that I
one
really
homage
love.
that I now started to think about that. Oh. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. The homage I'm talking about in Balto.
Yeah, I'll just let you finish.
It was a scene where they're going through the ice caver, and one of the sled dogs was looking through the ice. Now he doesn't know what he's looking at, but we know what his reflection is shaping up onto the ice. And the last one he got to was E.T., and he goes, "Oh, you want to know why they did that?
Why did they do that?
Because the same company was the company that animated that film was part of Steven Spielberg's animation company.
Oh, that's cool.
What was that animation company?
Is it
Amblin.
Amblin?
Amblin Animation.
Mm-hmm. That's why. Yeah, I could be wrong about that though. I could be wrong. I think it was either Warner Brothers animation branch or 20th Century animation branch. Or I think it was Touchstone. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me in the comments. But I like that. I like the fact that they pay homage to ET.
All right,
Like,
I got one.
the very one thing that was completely out of place in that movie, despite that movie being as close to realistic as it could be. But go ahead, Schooner.
Oh crap. One of my favorite homages was actually in Predator 2. When the Predator puts that skull on his trophy rack, and then you see an alien skull.
That's more of an Easter egg than a homage.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, all right. Here's one. I mean, does it technically count as an homage if the same director did it in both movies?
Depends. Go ahead.
I mean,
Uh,
depending, that's pretty much
It's
on like, his type of
basically
storytelling, really.
it's James Cameron's Terminator. At the end of the first movie, Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor are being chased by a truck, but in the beginning of the second movie, the first chase scene, John Connor is being chased by a semi-truck. That's an homage to the first one.
I'll let it go. I'll mostly call it a callback to the original. But yeah, more like a callback. But yeah, I'm we're
We'll
not
let
gonna
that one
split
slide,
hairs on
yeah.
that one.
Yeah. We
All
won't.
right. Well, what about
Yep.
the dance scene from Pulp Fiction and La La Land?
I haven't watched La La Land, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For me, though, for any homages, then I just started thinking about that is many times whenever Tokusatsu would pretty much do this when it comes to Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, they would always do homages to previous shows. Like Kamen Rider would always do the Kamen Rider Ichigo pose, because of course it would be, because it's the OG Kamen Rider. It's Kamen Rider Ichigo. But then Super Sentai pretty much would do a bit something like this, like the setup team for Gokaiger from their colors, red, blue, yellow, green, and pink. it's a very common color in Sentai because those are the 5 colors that started out in Go Ranger, and that in fact that was even that choice for Gokaiger. Meanwhile, when you look at Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger, which was the previous Sentai season from last year, it was an entire homage to Super Sentai. Zenkaiser, he's based on both Aka Ranger and Big One, both which from Go Ranger and Jaka. And then the Kikanoids, which are basically based on various mechs from Sentai. Juran, Zuranger, Vroon is based on Bokenger, Galon is based on Gal Ranger, and Majin is based on Maji Ranger. Then you also look at the extra Rangers of the team. Two Kaiser, who's actually based on 3 separate Sentai teams, despite he has 2 extra abilities. That's why they give him the name of Two Kaiser. Is that he's primarily based on Gokaiger because he pirated the suits, and it's ironic because the Gokaigers are pirates, and yet he himself is a pirate, and he pirated their suits because they just like the look of the suits. And then but then he also takes after Shinkenger and O Ranger. And then finally, the Dark Ranger of the team, Stace Caesar, who's based on Battle Japan from Battle Fever J. So yes, the entirety is based on references of Super Sentai.
Nice.
Very technical. Well, my pick for a homage is one that a lot of people don't really have high on their list, but I do, and I'm going to go with Van Helsing. And the reason I'm going to say Van Helsing is because I think it does do a good job giving homage to the Universal monsters, particularly at the beginning of the film when the film is in black and white. I do like that touch that he gives at the start of the movie that takes you back to the old Universal Studio with Universal logo. And then we get right into the movie. It starts in black and white, and it gives you the homage to that with the classic core horror movie characters of Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and of course of Dracula. So I think it is a very good homage to the Universal Studios, which I think the Universal Studio monsters, I know they seem like ancient to a lot of this generation, but I like the fact that the film did try to give tribute to that, because, and the reason I'm putting emphasis on it now is now Universal is trying to repeat that and seems to can't do it, because that Dark Universe was not working. That crap was just no, honey, that wasn't going to work. But see, here's the thing. They had it when they did Van Helsing. So they had something, didn't see it. Now they want to bring it back, but they can't do it. So
I say listen
Van
to Troy
Helsing himself-
Pacelli. I say listen to Troy Pacelli's Dark Universe ideas because it's beautiful.
I have, yes. You're right,
I missed
Scooty.
one that was like a big ball of homages.
What's that?
Monsters versus Aliens.
Oh my God!
Oh, yes, that is. I
Yep.
like that movie too. Yeah.
I
that's a
laughed
good-
my ass off to that movie.
Yes, I did. That
It's
is
ugly to me by today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
sadly. And it's only
But
been
still,
made
yeah.
ugly because of the TV series that preceded it. It did
Mhm.
not need one. Truth be told,
Mm-mm.
and I
It's
think
supposed-
it's not. I'm not saying like in design wise, it's not ugly. What I'm saying is the series made it ugly in its
Mhm.
own way, and I'm just like, I was like, yeah, this show didn't. This movie did not need no show.
Yep. Actually,
Tell I know
one
can
big
change their size at will now, which is weird.
yeah, one big homage after you just brought up Van Helsing, Leia. Van Helsing himself, he was homaged a lot, specifically in the Gothic Hunters in Bloodborne, because his design, the designs of the Gothic Hunters from the Bloodborne games, they almost look a bit similar to Van Helsing. Almost, they're just free, basically, are just free wherever they can go, just so they can hunt monsters.
the look like what Hugh Jackman looked like in the movie, you're saying?
In terms of the costume and silhouette, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I get what you're saying. Because when you give homage to something, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you know how to do it, as we brought out. But there's a difference between homage and just ripping off word for word, costume for costume, look for look. And that's what today's directors don't forget. Because when they're saying when we do homage, well, let's do it exactly the way people remember it. Because again, they don't have the skill of homage or ripping off. They don't have the skill to do that. So
There's a skill
that's why I
ripping
love
off.
stuff.
Yeah, because like they don't even
No,
add in their own
They
voices.
they don't have the skill. They don't have the skill. Yeah, that's the thing. You have to have a skill when you're doing an homage, because today they're just ripping off. They don't know how to say this movie influenced this, but instead I can't think of his name right now, but basically I can't think of it right now, but they don't know how to make it their own. Like, again, the homage isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing when it becomes completely rip off. What you mean? I want it to look like just like it was in this film, or I want the words that were just like it used in this film, and that's not always going to work out.
Yeah,
And that's where a lot of them are failing, because I hear directors say all the time.
Yeah, and here's the thing: whenever you are doing any type of medium, whether it is in a medium of that is recorded, such as a movie or a show, or staged, or whether it's staged or put into a game or any written materials, every writer has their own set of characters within their own mind. I forgot who actually said that quote. Everyone has like their own set of characters, are basically the equivalent of having actors on a stage. You have your own actors and you would have them do a certain performance that you would like for them to do on the stage, because I am actually a firm believer of this. Because you ever heard the saying that I don't like the story but I like the characters, or I don't like the characters but I like the story?
Yep.
I find that rather questionable, because I'm a firm believer that your characters are the story, because they are what make the story possible, because your story is but the stage, and your characters are what make the story possible because they're the actors on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, exactly. I would agree 100%. And what you're saying is kind of another problem, is that I kind of agree with that, you too, Final, because I can't understand when I hear people say, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but they'll say, the movie was stupid, but I like the characters. I like the characters. I just hate the world they were in. I don't know if you found yourself saying that, or I find myself saying that, but you're right. I think it has to go hand in hand, because I think even if you have a great setting, if you can't connect to the characters, nothing is going to work. And that's why I'm not connecting to a lot of movies lately, because the characters are so flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if you would have like an amazing idea for that, like for your characters, and yet it would even fail in that, it would almost feel like it'd either be wasted
if it
or
was just
like,
in another movie.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
many writers can actually do this. They can like take a pretty bad idea and actually make it a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter if you have like the greatest idea ever, you still have to make it more plausible, because even if you're writing novels, like I am with my future projects, and I actually will talk about this very shortly, you would have to. There is a complete difference between writing a novel and writing a very good novel. And with writing, it takes practice. And a lot of people would get wound up in setting, characters, and plots. And while those indeed are very important, but rarely, if ever, when you're actually writing a novel, this is the one thing they overlook on this fourth part, and it's really important. You see most poems actually do this, and that's prose.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people would write really good prose. There are a lot of videos on YouTube that would actually tell you how to write good prose, but a lot of people would pretty much overdo this. You see this with many bad fan fictions, that they would always overdo on the prose, and to do this in order for it to sell. It's almost like the equivalent of information overload.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You have to know. What is the old saying? It was don't show. Is it show don't tell, or tell don't show?
Show
it's
don't
show-
tell.
Yeah,
It's show don't tell.
Yeah, it's show don't tell. Yeah, that's where a lot
There's a
of
place
the
for tell don't show, but it's circumstantial. You have to do that. If you can't really fill in the gaps yet, you just tell.
Mhm.
But you cannot rely on that too long.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you yourself are
One
being an
example-
unreliable narrator to your audience.
One example of tell don't show was, again, A New Hope, when they were talking about the Imperial Senate and then Grand Moff Tarkin comes in.
Mhm.
He
Yeah,
just
that's the
introduced.
conference meeting.
And
Yeah.
he says, the Imperial Senate will no longer have any say in the matter. I've just received word that the Emperor has now dissolved the entire Senate. And he says the old remnants of that old republic have been swept away.
Mhm.
And he says, well, how is he going to maintain the control of the star systems without the bureaucracy? And Tarkin, once again, in beautiful dialogue fashion, swings it back around and brings us back to the main plot. He says, the regional governors now have direct control. Fear will keep the local systems in line, the fear of this battle station.
Yeah, and this is the political argument, because whenever you're
Mhm.
going to be writing a scene, and yet a lot of people, and it's yet really hard to even write politics, at least for me, but yet there are a lot of the times where there is a political story that would work well, such as Final Fantasy XII, because there's already a war going on within the story of Final Fantasy XII, because it is a political war, because Vayne Solidor, the main villain, he does have very sympathetic reasons, and yet his reason is to have men be in control of their own destiny, but yet what he's doing is causing an all-out war. In fact,
Mhm.
he's trying to do this for his younger brother, which he saw right through. That's why he called this band of misfits to get them together to try to stop the reigns of his brother.
Yep. Or
And
even one great anime, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That did politics amazing.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what you guys just explained is why Star Wars on a Lucasfilm it stinks like an alley cat, is because they don't understand what Final just said, and Squinty, what you just said about writing and how you have to is don't show, don't tell, what is it again? Show don't.
Show don't. It's tell. It's
Show
tell.
don't tell.
No. It was no. We were talking about tell, don't show.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but then the always biggest part about writing is always show don't tell. That's always a
Mhm.
big part of storytelling.
And if you say, now here's something interesting. If you say one thing in tell, don't show, and then only to later to have what was told shown, that's not tell, don't show. That's foreshadowing.
Mhm.
Right.
That's a different form of writing.
Right. So
Now, when we have the prequel trilogy, which I love, is that now, because it recontextualizes Grand Moff Tarkin's saying in that movie,
Mhm.
because now if you watch the original trilogy first, which I highly recommend to everybody,
Yeah.
that is foreshadowing what's going to happen in the prequels.
Yeah, and funny enough, this is even another story with another political war that's going on.
Yep, exactly.
And
Well, and that was the thing too. The original draft of Star Wars: A New Hope had a lot of political undertones.
yeah, because normally whenever wars would be written, it's usually whenever there might be some sort of something involving politics, because that's how
Yeah.
human conflict stems. It's either opposing ideals and societal norms, but not all the time, because what many wars, such as the case of World War II in history, it's caused by a power-hungry dictator causing genocide on a certain group of people for existing.
Well, not only that, it's that because I don't think we knew about the Holocaust until after the war, but it was a man, like you were saying, a genocidal madman who was waging war, who wanted complete control over the world. And the world many of the powers over in Europe had been suckered in by his charm. So yes, it's very easy to paint Adolf Hitler as a bad guy, because he was a terrible person. In fact, he's like the gold
I mean, not all
standard
the
of how
Nazis
to.
pretty much are, but
Yeah,
yet they would
all of
even
them. Oh yeah,
all of them are.
Yeah.
But pretty much a good majority of them are. In fact, a
Mhm.
lot of them would even recruit the HJ to use indoctrination for
Oh,
this.
yeah. And
In fact,
propaganda. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why.
they were propaganda.
That's why
They
the
care more
Empire.
about- They care more about propaganda propaganda and an image of fortitude, but yet they would do anything in their power to do this. They would use scapegoats, bigotry, and anything in their power to even get people onto the program, even while they suffered under them.
And I think Star Wars did the smart thing by avoiding all of the political issues in the original trilogy and instead kept it focused on more of a Taoist philosophy. Whereas the
That's what the
prequel,
Jedi are.
that's what the Jedi are, and the Sith are by contrast. They were keeping very true to the Taoist philosophy, which I really liked. And the prequel trilogy is more like an Abrahamic tragedy or a King Lear tragedy. Because that's what they were. But the political intrigue, though, that was introduced, a lot of people hated it, but I actually saw right what it was supposed to show. That the democracy had reached a point of stagnation, and while everybody was busy fighting one another, they couldn't see the invisible enemy that was right on their doorstep.
Yeah, no, that's what I got out of it too, Scooney. That's what I got out of it. Someone asked was the one thing I would take from that. I would say they didn't see the monster in the dark.
No.
They didn't see what was really going on because they were exactly what you said. They were too busy fighting one themselves. They didn't see what the real reason was. Would you guys say that is the same kind of ingredient with Civil War?
Yes,
maybe.
Civil War.
I mean, that pretty much would be pretty much with any wars. Because again, I already said this before, human conflict stems from opposing ideals and societal norms.
Storytelling. We're not talking.
And that's usually
about the topic right now.
Yeah. Well, in storytelling, we'll get back to this later, I promise. But back to the storytelling. But back to the storytelling element. Yes, there is instances of where you can do tell, don't show. But more importantly, it's show, don't tell. And back to what you were saying, Final, about pros, you have to figure out, and this is where the frustrating part of being a writer is, you got to trust your audience. Always believe that the audience knows what you're talking about. In fact, never underestimate the intelligence of your audience.
Yeah.
And you need to give them just enough.
In Japan always do. Pretty much.
You have to give them
mostly on the side of Tetsuya Nomura, which a lot of people like to say, "Oh, this dude is a madman. Keep him the fuck away." I mean, when you look at this of Kingdom Hearts, is it convoluted? Jesus Christ, absolutely, it is convoluted as hell. But when playing Kingdom Hearts for the first time, going in order from Birth by Sleep, going in order from the Kingdom Hearts Key, because that was actually the first, because it explains all the events of the Keyblade War, the first Keyblade War. And then going through all the entire series, I already got the general story out of this. And yes, there's a lot of things, and yet one problem Kingdom Hearts suffers from is just having prolonged cutscenes and dialogue before getting to the gameplay. Metal Gear suffers from it too. But and yet a lot of people even complain about this with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, is that Nomura made it too much like Kingdom Hearts. Well, Wolf can pretty much agree with that, because that's always infamous in Tetsuya Nomura's works.
I'm also going to say this, though. I am going to give him some slight credit for Final Fantasy, the remake of Final Fantasy VII. He decided that he wasn't going to do an out-and-out remake. He was going to go in his own direction.
Yeah, because if you do want to give the audience,
by that.
Yeah, but if you do want to give the audience the same experience as other people played with the original game, you give them the original game, or. Because if you give them the remake and expect them to have the same experience as the original, it's going to be a different experience. This is the thing with SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. That game is more of a remaster, despite that they promise a lot of the uncut content is in there when it's not in there. It's just the same game with bigger graphics.
That's a straight up lie.
Yeah, because they didn't.
That's a straight up lie, just like The Last of Us 2.
Exactly. Yeah, because Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated is just no more than a remaster of the original game.
I'll give you a game that's actually inspired by a writing material.
That is
Spec Ops: The Line, Heart of Darkness. Play that game. Trust me.
And that was really
game
what
is built to fuck you up.
Well,
Oh,
okay. First off, the Final Fantasy VII remake. I mean, first off, we were gonna. I don't think. I think people were just whining because we want an updated version of Final Fantasy VII. You know, let's forget about all the other Final Fantasy games that
They
came
put that
before
on
it.
a phone though. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we're getting what we want, but it's on a phone.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because Final Fantasy games were pretty much like so big with their mobile titles like Brave Exvius, Record Keeper, Mobius, and they do have their stinkers. All the bravest.
And there were so many different spin-offs of Final Fantasy VII. I mean, Final Fantasy VII is what put the franchise on the map.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, internationally anyway.
Well, yes, because they didn't put the RPG in the title because back then they considered RPGs as like a nerd thing. But then they took that out. That's how they used it for the market. And that's how a lot of people fell in love with that series. In fact, that's how that was
Just
a lot
the
of first
title.
people.
Just the title of alone makes me interest. Final Fantasy? A Final Fantasy?
Hey,
What is a
you know
Final
what?
Fantasy?
I'll give you a Japanese homage.
What's
Two
that?
of 'em. Millennium Falcon and Berserk,
Ooh.
or Falcon of the Millennium Arc. Biggs
Uh,
and Wedge in Final Fantasy VII. Since you guys are talking about Final Fantasy VII,
yeah.
Yeah. Even
Oh,
though
I'll
they're pretty
even
much
say
like
that.
reoccurring characters, though, because
and
they've appeared since
it
six.
got crazier over time with Kingdom Hearts, did it not?
Oh, yeah.
Xemnas
Yeah.
with his lightsabers,
Mm-hmm.
the
Oh, yeah.
Keyblade Warriors.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Man,
yeah.
Xemnas
Star
really
Wars is
did
huge.
love Star
Star
Wars.
Wars is huge in Japan.
Yeah, because Square
Shame
Enix,
China
they
doesn't
absolutely
share the same
love
sentiment.
Star Wars.
I mean, Star Wars is huge all over the world. It's still huge here. I mean,
What-
but if anything,
And-
the Disney acquisition has
funny.
reminded all of us what's really great about Star Wars. But
Mhm.
getting back,
You want to know what's the funny thing is that when you actually look at Final Fantasy VIII, this is a pretty hilarious thing that I'm actually going to explain, Leia. And it's the Ultimicia's palace Idea's palace in Final Fantasy VIII, because Ultimecia wasn't shown yet in Final Fantasy VIII. Because there was the palace where a lot of the people are doing the Thriller dance in their palace because Square Enix loved Michael Jackson. They're also huge Michael Jackson fans.
oh
And
yeah,
that's the entire reason why they put that in there, because they were such
Mhm.
huge Michael Jackson fans. They actually put the Thriller dance in that scene in Aegea's palace for the
Mhm.
assassination attempt.
You can't
Oh
go
my-
wrong with the Thriller dance.
oh my gosh! All
They
right,
didn't put
somebody,
they didn't put the
you
music
got to
in
do.
there, but they put the dance.
Oh,
Okay. Oh my gosh, somebody's got to do this though. In a movie, we must have this because every movie likes to have characters dance. I would love to have an assassin go and assassinate her target while doing the Thriller dance.
Oh, that's a challenge right there. That's a challenge.
How is he
That's a
supposed to do
challenge.
that?
Yeah.
Like, just imagine, like, wait, maybe I think I might know how this will happen. Like,
you-
people are just gonna go up to her, just like do the Thriller dance, just like throw a bunch of knives at them while it's just doing the Thriller dance.
While she's doing the Thriller dance, or in the
just,
scene.
like,
or
when
no,
someone's
here's
gonna
what it
attack, just,
goes.
like, do the dodge, just like twitching their head back, like the actual dance that they did.
Well, here's how I would have done it. She's doing the entire Thriller dance, being all seductive, and then right while everybody's still distracted with dancing, she seductively dances in front of her target right when Vincent Price starts talking. Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. You know, and she assassinates her target and then just does the laugh as she walks out.
That could work.
But another homage movie that I think really was good, that was really a great callback, was Pacific Rim.
Oh yes.
It's a callback to a bunch of kaiju films, but yet
Not
even though
just a
this was-
callback to kaiju films, but also mech films.
Yes.
And it even was able to sneak in a little homage to Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, the director, he knows how to do monsters.
Yep. Well, anybody see his new movie Pinocchio on Netflix? I recommend it. It's fantastic.
I've been hearing about that. I have.
It's amazing.
I've been hearing a lot of people telling me a lot about that. I'll have to check it out. I've been hearing a lot of buzz about that. That this is not Disney's crappy, wappy garbage Pinocchio live action Pinocchio garbage. This one is something totally. This is more towards what the novel, the book. Excuse me, not the novel, but what the book is about. I was going to say very briefly, since we're talking about it, whether you like their films or not, I think Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are probably the two most influential directors in Hollywood. They have influenced so many filmmakers. Whether you like it or not, I think they have been. I think they have influenced so many wannabe filmmakers. Filmmakers always make reference to their movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, with George Lucas, it's a little more obvious when they're making homages. In fact, I still love the scene from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back when Mark Hamill is there and he ignites a lightsaber because they're in a movie, and the director of the movie says, "Oh, I think George Lucas is going to sue somebody."
But I also think, guys, why I think a lot of movies or TV shows, whatever the medium, the entertainment is not working, is because I think, do you think there's more show than tell than show? I think they're more into more show and tell because, again, I'm not connecting to characters. It's just like,
Well, just getting back to what we were saying.
They would even do the tell don't show thing, as they would just have like laughably poor dialogue, like such the case with Thor: Love and Thunder or The Rings of Power.
Oh God!
It's such laughably bad dialogue because they don't even know how to even.
Oh, it's not laughably bad. It starts off laughably bad, then it just goes into straight cringe. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, because like
that whole scene with that whole scene in the TV show, White Men Can't Captain America. It's like, you've got to do better, Senator. And I'm just like, ooh.
Please don't remind me of that blasphemy.
Yeah.
Please don't remind me.
When he goes, you've got to do better, Senator. I'm like, ooh.
That's what you got to do as a writing, because this is the thing.
Fun talk here, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the thing with the writing. And it takes practice, and the more you practice, you gotta get good at it. And then, in order for you to be the writer, you got to write every day. And yes, it sounds hard, and indeed it does. It really sounds hard. You have to write every day. But what was his name? The writer from who wrote Flowers for Algernon.
Oh gosh, dang it!
But
this is gonna plague me all night now.
Ray Bradbury, that's who it is. He's the writer for Flowers for Algernon. He always says, like, don't think, because, like, even though it would sound like a pretty weird topic whenever it comes to writing, because you would think of, like, a scenario that would play out, especially for a scene. But that would come from a place of overthinking something. Like, wait, how will this actually play out? This is even what I even suffered from in my writing. Is that how will I think this would even play out for either this character or for the entire scene, from going from point A at the beginning to point B in the middle where everything's going on to the end at point C? How will this all conclude? Or like, how will this all suddenly go forward? And it would come from overthinking this. Because you do need to think of how will I get from here to here. And this also takes from a lot of practice with this, because but yet you would not have to even think about a lot of things. You would just have to think and see if it pretty much would work. But then if you do want to go back and fix it, you could pretty much already go ahead and do that. Or if you even do have an editor or edit this yourself and feel like, yeah, that probably didn't work. Let's try this again.
Yeah. Precisely. What you got to do, especially when you're a writer, you also have to realize that sometimes you just have to start. Don't plan, start.
Yeah. And Kurt Vonnegut, I think that he actually said this quote, start as close to the end as possible, because a lot of writers always start at the end. But yet for me, I do start pretty much at the beginning, but would already think of the end. But then for my future project that I'm working on that's inspired by Fire Emblem Fates, the overall plot of Fire Emblem Fates, because that was already my gateway to the Fire Emblem series, is I thought at the beginning, but then also thought at the end. So then I thought, how will I get from here from point A to point B throughout this entire story. And this does require planning.
I think you have a. I think the writers today, again, we're trying to find why I don't know about anybody else, but speaking for myself, why I'm not connected to characters. I think some of these writers just can't write, or think they know how to write but have not lived life, or they think life is like where they live. You know,
Yeah.
I live in Los Angeles. I'm in New York, so the whole world must obviously be like this.
Yeah, island onto themselves, Leia.
You know, Neostar, one advice I can give is to just, at the very least, try to write 1,000 words a day. Even if it's not a story, write 1,000 words. Like, write down your favorite quotes, or write down a repeat of words 1,000 times. Just get into the habit of writing, and then it'll flow.
Or just like did what I did whenever I would be reciting poetry. I would normally always write down a bunch of other poets, or any other wise sayings, like the 24 wise sayings of King Solomon, or the 9 virtues of the night, as said by King Arthur. Always write every day from this. And, and if you do want to write a story, you have to know story structure. You would have to know how structure works. You would have to know about certain tropes, certain types of characters, character types, or archetypes, if you will. Or even in setting. But then, even if you're writing a novel, the most important thing, but don't always overdo it, always write prose. You even see many poems do this.
Here's what I say. Just write it all out, no matter how ridiculous it is, because you're not here to be pretty. You're here to just write it. And then that's when you go through the editing phase. That's when you really find the story.
Exactly, yeah. Ray Bradbury actually said a lot of things about this.
Comment here.
Oh, okay. What were you saying? Wait, hang on. Final, what were you saying?
I was saying, yeah, that's actually how Ray Bradbury actually says about this. I'm just saying, don't think. Because the only time that you would think, that's when you actually get into the editing phase. And then that's when you would think, yeah, that scene probably didn't work. Let's try this again.
Yeah, one great example of this was, of course, obviously Star Wars, which was saved in the editing room, thanks to George Lucas's then wife. But also another movie that was really saved in the editing room was, believe it or not, Sam Mendes' American Beauty. Because he originally, if you listen to the commentary, his movie was supposed to be way different, far different than what he found in the editing room.
Really?
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Because just watch. Go to Sam Mendes.
I was reading Nightmare's comment.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wolf. Read Draco's comment.
This is addressed to Leia. Modern Hollywood writers think from the perspective of the modern day, no matter what setting they are. I would say yes, but there's also a movie that actually did that right, no matter what setting it was. And it was Ella Enchanted.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Shrek.
Well, Ella Enchanted and Shrek are not really fantasy genres, but are more or less poking fun at them. But also what I love about Shrek and Ella Enchanted, they're poking fun at the fairy tales, but follow all the fairy tale tropes.
Oh, yeah. And then another story that pokes fun at fairy tales, Into the Woods. Into the Woods pokes fun at fairy tales, whether you have seen the actual stage show. Yeah, if you've seen the actual stage show of Into the Woods, it pokes fun at fairy tales a lot, because it's not like it's pretty much like a comedy, because no one in the audience stops laughing.
I think it was even hilarious that
songs like when they get to the song Agony with the two princes, like both Prince Charmings. It's funny because they're supposedly look like nice guys, but yet when they actually get to the song, it's completely the opposite, especially in the second act where they both cheat on their wives in the stage show.
I know, yeah. That's the thing that I loved. And then and then one of them actually loses their mind.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
Now, what I liked about Into the Woods, I mean, I'll even say that the movie is, for the most part, okay, but the stage plays better.
That's what I've heard for a lot of people.
Into the Woods, the original play is about taking responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for your actions. All actions have consequences, so be ready and think on your decisions. That's the lesson from Into the Woods.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't even start out that way. They
No.
really didn't. Because, like, even the song where they all started pointing each other, like, it's saying, oh, it's your fault, because even though it's all their fault, and yet they're blaming it on one another because they didn't even choose the responsibility, decide not to even take responsibility for their own actions for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it only took
I even love the fact
Baker,
that
it only took Baker himself to finally realize this once he realized that his dad was still alive.
Mm-hmm. That his dad was still alive, and his dad was the wise old man who set these events in motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that those movies you named do the fairy tale tropes. When they turn them upside on their head, they do it right. Frozen, I think, was not giving homage. I think it was. I hate to say it was sort of ratting on those.
Yeah, it was dunking on them.
Yeah,
because
Disney was jumping on
it
itself.
felt like it was at the time. It was at the time where a lot of people just felt like, ugh, Disney, just like so pretty much over that. And yet they tried to do that just for the sake of that. So that's why a lot of it is just like, just Hans becomes the villain out of nowhere. And yet we were promised that Elsa just probably might be the main villain. And yet, while in practice, she probably might have, like, even if it pretty much would, if it were honest.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like, nothing about it was already honest.
Exactly.
No.
I think I read somewhere where they said making Hans the villain was a last-minute decision, and it shows.
It was
a
a movie.
last-minute
It was and I actually would have praised the movie more because it was a movie that didn't need a bad guy.
Yeah, Mary Poppins, it didn't have a villain.
No, and
You're
Top
right.
Gun Maverick didn't even have a bad guy.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Sometimes the bad guy or you don't really need it. It could be a situation or an obstacle in life that the protagonist has to overcome. That can be a challenge right there. You guys are right about that. That
because
can be a challenge.
This is the other part you need to do for the story. Establish the conflict. Neil Gaiman actually said this into a quote. Anytime where you have one character who wants something, but then another character has something mutually exclusive and they start to collide, and every time that suddenly starts to happen, you have a story.
Exactly. And back to Draco, your comment, like Wolf said, there's times when this works, it doesn't. A really good example of your comment is doing an historical piece or an historical story.
Yep.
If you are doing a historical story about King Louis XIV and the Palace of Versailles, you cannot have Black folks walking around there like they are high society people. It just did not happen. You can't have that because that is not how it was in the 16th century. If you just cannot write women or minority characters the way they were written in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, do not do those stories. Go to the stories that you want to write. Now, you can be influenced by these stories and you say, well, I'm going to do a theme like that of Louis XIV, but I'm going to set it in a modern setting. Then that's a difference. Then you can pull it. But if you go into these things and you try to make a Bridgerton, when it's not going to work. You can't bring modern day politics into the political atmosphere of 17th century France.
Yeah, another movie that actually does historical context well, and actually what I plan to watch with my dad, Master and Commander. Everything about it is pretty much historically accurate. In fact, the way they talk, you pretty much would have no idea pretty much what they would, but they actually talk like that. Even the children that were on the ship, that actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. History is not pretty, but it's
Master and Commander.
I did see that once.
I did like Master and Commander. It's one of those movies you got to see. You've seen at least once.
I've got to see it. I watched it once. I forgot the whole plot, but I definitely have to see it again. But like I said, you're right. History is not pretty, but we know today that the people today are trying to go back and change it, and that's a no-no. Then you're writing historical fan fiction.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you want to do, but if you cannot, you have to understand in the 60s, 70s, 80s centuries, unless you were a queen, a lot of women didn't have power. In Louis XIV's court, your job as a woman was to make as many babies for the king as you possibly can. That was your only job. That was it. Look pretty and bang the king at night and pump out as many children as you possibly can. That
That was
your
classy,
role.
Leia. That was very, very classy.
In fact, that's
That
literally
pretty much was your role. I'm sorry, Scotty.
that's even pretty much on one of my characters. Again, it's in the future project. That's the Fire Emblem Fates inspired project. Because in Fire Emblem Fates, the main villain, King Gowron, who looks a lot like Ganondorf from The Legend of Zelda, he kind of acts like him too, and I joke about that. And when he only had like one true son. His true son, which I will actually show the pictures through
But if you
Actually-
are a woke, pink-haired, woke nut feminist, then don't write those stories. You can't bring modern language and modern attitudes to a 17th, 18th century story. You just can't do it.
Nope,
you
you
really,
can't.
you can't
Yep,
do
you
it.
really can't.
That's
You just really
probably
can't.
why I also hated Star Trek Picard, because now suddenly they're talking like us. They didn't
Yeah.
talk like, there was a very melodrama to Star Trek.
Like people just gave up on writing dialogue that's appropriate for the times.
Yeah.
What next? We're gonna get something that's taking place in the 80s, and yet they talk like they're in the fucking 2020s.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not how that works.
Apparently, just write them like freaking Hamilton. How they pretty much did it, because like all the songs in there are pretty much rap, almost.
Oh
Yeah,
goodness.
rapping presidents. When I heard about what was the big deal about Hamilton, I'm like, oh, they're all rapping. Okay,
yeah.
that's a great way to tell the story of the
In fact,
founding
the very
fathers.
opening song is literally a rap.
Yeah.
You know that, by the way, you need to know that play, Hamilton.
I will.
You
here's
have
the
to know
thing.
that
I
play,
will-
Hamilton, is not historically accurate.
Well, yeah.
No. Here's the thing. I'm willing to give leeway to stuff like that if you're willing to experiment with other genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like this. Remember the contrast between The Wizard of Oz and The Wiz.
Mhm.
But that's
Yes.
Remember
different. The Wiz was fun.
True. And then we also recently had the In the Heights,
Mhm.
which was a mixture of your traditional theater singing, and it got interspliced with rapping here and there. It had a nice blend to it. I didn't watch the movie. I frankly was not into
Mhm.
musics of current generation today. I've seen a little bit of the West Side Story remake, which
Yeah.
it's
Oh, Wolf,
fine.
why
It's just
why'd you do that to yourself?
I only peeked that dude. Don't judge me.
I'm not judging you. I'm saying, no, I'm not judging you. I feel sorry for you. I'm like, why would
Call
you
it-
subject yourself to that torture?
Call it curiosity, not really morbid. Call it
Mm.
curiosity. I was thinking of what was going down with this remake. What was
All right.
Steven Spielberg doing anything different with this remake? And apparently not a damn thing.
It was
Than
like
he cast the appropriate he cast the appropriate cultures to each culture.
it was like I was being
However,
it was like I was being tortured for information, and I wanted to give it up, but I just didn't know what they wanted.
however, there was one particular character that they just did not want to acknowledge the gender to, and I'm wondering, like, Steve, what the fuck is that?
Is that the
Like-
one that
It's the recent it's the recent version of West Side Story. The recent adaptation of West Side Story.
Can I
Yeah,
just say that? Can I just say that Bachman did better representation in Romeo and Juliet than Spielberg did in
For West Side
You know,
Story.
West Side
Yeah.
Story?
Yeah.
Because at least in Romeo and Juliet, what was Romeo's friend's name again? What was his name?
oh shoot, I forgot who it was.
Oh,
I know I've read it since
His
I was
best
like
friend.
in 8th
Hell, they don't
grade.
even say Go put on a skirt to the character.
Yeah,
Anyway, actually, yeah, now I have the
But it-
pictures now.
but it was
Um,
Romeo.
Okay,
But it was
whenever you're-
Romeo's.
But we'll,
It was
we'll continue
Romeo's
from this
pal who
before
gets.
then.
It was Romeo's pal who gets killed to make the play, more
Mercutio.
serious. But in Bachman's Romeo and Juliet with Leo DiCaprio, he's a drag queen.
Yeah.
He's only a drag queen for a brief scene. That's not
He
even
was in-
drag. He was
Yeah.
was in a costume.
But still,
That's
they
not
made him.
dragging.
But they made him gay, and I think that.
He wasn't gay.
I thought he was.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he was gay.
No,
Wolf,
he was
I'm about
flamboyant.
Wolf. I'm about 190% sure that he was 100% gay.
I'm 9% about ready to challenge you.
All right.
Oh, man. And I'm
Here we go.
100% about to show something for
Finals-
Leia.
But
Just to
Unfortunately,
show her.
we gotta wrap it up.
Damn
Well,
it.
can I see what? Okay, final.
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
wanna
sure.
see? What you want to
Sure.
see?
Can I say
All right.
final?
All right. It's even though it's already basically something that, on my future project. Just to give the idea, just this image of Fire Emblem Fates. It's already
Wow.
pretty much this entire cover of Fates. But so King Gowron is the main villain. He's nowhere to be found here. His only true child is this guy, right? The blonde hair that's at shoulder length with the purple cape back here.
Mercutio, thank you.
That
Red
is
31
Red
sorcerer.
31.
I said that already.
it's that being this is his true son, Xander. But the rest of his other children, Leo, who is the other blonde kid, but then the short blonde girl with the pigtails is Elise, and the purple hair girl in the far left in the back, that is Camilla. And those Leo, Elise, and Camilla are the results of the concubines from Gowron's many mistresses, and which is how Gowron, he actually liked to seduce women, almost a bit similar to Zeus. But even then, that's how his kingdom started to fall and started to crumble. You would have so many children and resulted into so many women. Guess what happens? Your kingdom falls.
Oh yeah.
And that's how Nor pretty much ended up that way. The kingdom of Nor, why it's already almost like a collapsing kingdom, pretty much basically is almost like a symbol of tyranny. Much like in my story where King Victor, the main villain there, that's exactly what happened within there.
Well, I like the way those pictures look. You have me intrigued. It looks pure fantasy, and I miss pure fantasy these days.
Because
So
that's
have
basically what Fire Emblem is. It is pure fantasy. It's a
I like
tactical RPG series. You would have to think your strategies carefully with this.
Well, I like the way it looks so far. It's got, like I said, I miss pure fantasy, and I like the way it looks. That's great. Final.
Don't you dare stop. I want to see the story.
Yeah, you have my attention.
We might get it after. You guys pretty much will get it after this is all over. And here's Neostar sipping over Camilla.
I ain't put it on the screen. And Mercutio's not gay, damn it. I originally thought he was.
I thought he
when I
was
look
in
back-
that movie. That's the way
When I
took
look
it.
back, hang on. When I look back, I'm like, yeah, he's not gay. He's just funny. He's just
What
funny.
does funny mean? What do you mean?
Man,
I took him as
He is playing the part of Mercutio. Mercutio was fun personified. That's how I interpret Mercutio when I read the play. Mercutio was fun personified. He was that and more, but like on the whole, he was fun personified. He tend to fuck with people too at times, but like on the whole, Mercutio is fun, and the way how they portrayed Mercutio in the Leonardo DiCaprio version was no different than how he's supposed to be portrayed in story. When you have a there's a lot of Romeo and Juliet like movies out there, but on the whole, the many I've seen thus far, the ones I have actually seen, Mercutio or anybody who was the Mercutio stand-in was exactly how Mercutio was always portrayed: fun, personified. The Mercutio and the Leonardo DiCaprio, he was just having fun. That was it. Because if they
Well-
really wanted to lean into that whole gayness stuff, he would have had a room with another guy.
Wolf, you're in denial.
You can kiss my ass.
And saw Neil Star's comment. Fire Emblem Fates has Lady Ninjas final. You haven't seen me simp yet. I mean, I know that.
That
I am
won't
I am
stream.
that I'm aware of because I am playing Fire Emblem Fates Birthright again because I hadn't even played it since like 2016 or no 2017 because I think that's 2016 was when the game came out because it was almost like a year after Fire Emblem Awakening came out in the US because I think that game came out in 2012 and then wait no 2012 in Japan, then it was 2013, maybe it might have been the same year when it was released
Look,
in the
motherfucker, I
US.
got work in the morning,
Sorry.
Oh goodness.
as we all do, as we all got our things to
Yep.
do. Look,
All
we can
right, yeah.
continue this another time, man. It's getting close to 11 on my end, and I have 30 minutes more to get myself ready for bed so I can start my morning again for work. Okay,
Yep.
I said okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Now, I thank everybody for being here. Wow, we had a lot today. We had 8 to 9 of you, and those nonsense motherfuckers that kept popping in and out. Thank you, Eloise, the Bear of the North, for staying with us for a brief time. Unfortunately, she had to go to bed because she has to work in the morning. See, we're not on her time. No, let me reverse that. She's not on our time. She's on her time. Anyways, guys, this was a request from one of you guys in the chat. One of you guys in the chat. If you guys have made it this far, please go onto my channel, go into the community tab, go find that tab where I asked what topic do you want us to cover. Please put that in the comments so we don't have to always be guessing or winging what topic we should cover. Now I know, Leia, you got some things that you got something that you want us to take care, to cover as well. I know, Final, you have something in line as well, and Schooner, maybe you will, maybe Eloise and maybe even Dom has something for us. But let's hold off on that for now, and let's ask the audience of what we want to talk of what they want us to talk about, what we haven't covered yet. Is that okay?
That's
fine with
perfect.
me.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine
People,
with me.
yeah. Exactly.
Of course.
People, you got something worth wanting us to talk about, we'll do it.
You
That's
know
what I'm
how
saying.
we
Like
are.
we've been going through. What are we on, season 3 now?
Oh yeah, we're on season 3. Can you believe it?
Wow. I can't believe it either. It's your channel, Commander, and if you want us to focus on the people, I'm all for it.
Draco, I will love the honor of having you with us to talk about villains
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
we always do.
Depending on the type of villain.
We'll talk about all villains, all kinds of villains. Anyways, we'll definitely come back to that coming this year. So, a brief announcement. I've already set up the stream for next month. This could be subject to change though, depending on how everybody's schedule is coming January.
Yep.
We will be tackling the first volume of Akira, the manga. We'll be restarting. That's right, guys. Restarting the manga studies. Starting with Akira, one of the most well-known but least talked about mangas. Everybody talk about the animated movie, but not many people says enough about the manga. Now there has been YouTube videos about the manga, but they only touch on them briefly. I know Cinefex had what's their difference between the manga and the animated movie. And I know a few manga content creators have also talked about the manga a few times. But we need to talk more about it. I feel we need to talk more about Akira the
Well, because
manga.
the manga of Akira is far different than the film.
Oh, for reals. For reals. The movie is more condensed compared to the manga. It's
The
very,
movie pretty
very
much
condensed.
follows it. The movie pretty much follows the latter half of the story very well. It's just when um,
You get in the middle.
Tetsuo gets to Akira, does the anime deviate?
Mm-hmm. Neil Star, if you want to join us one day or you want to join us that day, feel free to contact me. Same with you, Draco Nightmare. Or anybody who wants to join that manga study, because we will want people to come join us as well. Share their thoughts. Get
With
some
something
fresh
like that,
blood.
that's gonna be
Some
one
fresh
hell of a
thoughts.
party.
Yeah.
Red 31 sources. I won't be streaming on Christmas. I'll be in LA. Unfortunately, guys, that's where the streams will stop for now until I get back, which will be some. We'll be back to basics when we get into January.
Okay.
So it'll be
When are you leaving for your trip?
the 23rd.
Okay. So I was gonna say Thursday. Do you want to tackle Red 31's what her suggestion, or do you want to tackle it that Tuesday?
Let me see, what was it? Or maybe for Christmas you could talk about your favorite Christmas heroes and villains, like Christmas movie, Christmas special, etc.
Unless
That
you have
is
something.
not my wheelhouse. I haven't seen enough Christmas movies, let alone watched enough
Mhm.
watch them enough to remember certain villains.
You just need to
Gotcha.
remember the greatest Christmas villains ever, the Wet Bandits
Right. I
I
think
mean,
that's
from
what she
Home
meant.
Alone.
I think that's probably what she means from certain Christmas movies, and I thought she was pertaining to Christmas stories per se, the Christmas mythology.
Nothing stands up to the Peanuts dancing and Charlie Brown's Christmas special, and they're in there dancing. You guys want to remember when
Well,
they
you
do it
need
and
to,
they
girl. You need to put in. You all don't even. You better, girl. I don't care about your voice. Get up on here so you can join us. You need to start putting in. You and Evie. I'm kidding. Anyways, so that's what we're gonna be starting our month off with, is the return of the manga studies.
Mhm.
I know I said before that I was going to just ignore them. They haven't really been, they didn't pick up enough steam, but I think we can give it another shot, because I was almost about ready to give up on the anime spotlight, and look how each segment blew up
Oh
over
yeah.
time.
yeah.
Currently, our Tokyo Godfathers is sitting around 106 views. I don't know how far y'all
Like,
motherfuckers
it still
got
needs to
through
spread
that.
its wings.
All I'm saying is I don't know how much you guys got through that stream, but Jesus, like 106 views. Maybe we're just sound bites to them while they're doing their cooking and cleaning.
Wolf, I'm going to
I
tell you
don't
right
know.
now, we haven't found our audience yet, but I'm going to tell you far into the future, these little podcasts that we're making will be considered historical artifacts in an alien display case. We will be the
See it
sole
now.
survivor.
They're pulling my. They're saying "kiss my dick" in their language.
Well,
And
you're
then
slowly
they'll say, despite the crudity, there's a charm to them.
you're very slowly building up. You've got each this is 3 seasons, you say. So each season you're getting more, you're getting more, you're getting more. So you're going in the right direction. You'd be surprised
Yeah,
how every little
I'm
bit.
sitting on 325
Yeah.
subscribers now.
Think about where you were when you first started in the first season till now. So every little bit counts.
Can't remember the exact number it was at, but
Mm.
I mean, damn. But other than that, like I said, we'll be tackling Akira next month. Like I said, don't. I said for the third, but that could flip. That could definitely flip. So you guys keep your eyes peeled on that one. Of course, I'll let you guys know of that. Um, So that's what we'll be doing every month. Once a month, we'll be tackling each volume of Akira, because I'm giving you guys time to read those volumes, because each volume progressively gets longer than the last volume. So be aware of that. I'm speaking to my panelists here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I will do the
Yep,
best I
you
can.
got it.
Wolf.
Oh, I'm already way ahead
But
of
you,
you. Wolf.
Leia,
I'm already.
you need to at least read at least 15 pages to get the gist of it.
I'm going to try.
Leia, try to
And,
get
and
to.
all you gotta do is scroll down.
Yep.
It's set to where you can just scroll down.
And the art is pretty fantastic.
Dang it, girl. All you
Leia,
need, you got a tablet now. Scroll down with your finger. Scroll down, and it ain't that hard to read. It's simple read each one, and don't forget to read from right to left.
Yeah, because it is a manga. Because
It's
normally
not a comic book.
yeah, because Japan has a very different style of how they read in comparison to how we do.
oh yeah.
Okay.
So you guys do that in the community tab, but also do in the community tab. Pick out what anime we should check out.
Yeah,
In fact, even in the manga states, like throw in any manga suggestions.
Leia, just for a little incentive, the comic book that we're reading, it came out in 1982.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then it was adapted into a film since somewhere in the 90s.
Mhm.
1988.
1988. Oh my
Oh,
god.
goodness.
That was the year. Wow. Akira came out the year I was born.
Nice.
Dude.
It came it came right after I was born.
Mhm.
Also, Leia suggested this. I would say that when I get back, we'll honor her request. We'll tackle the Nolan trilogy,
Bingo.
since we already tackled the Spider-Man trilogy
Mm-hmm.
and the Matrix trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Why not tackle a trilogy that almost well, it kind of did. It defined the generation of that time now.
Mm-hmm.
The Nolan Batman trilogy.
Interesting.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that when I get back.
Mhm.
Before we
Oh my God. By
what?
2017, director Taika Waititi was named as the live-action director for the live-action adaptation of Akira.
Oh, man.
Oh no. Oh no. It's the coming
He's
of the
gonna-
apocalypse.
It's gonna just be adapting a very serious work and a very serious story and turns it into comedic. Like he's a kid in the
Gentlemen
Toy
and
Story.
lady, though, we have found there is good news. Warner Brothers put the work on indefinite hold just prior to filming Waititi's version because he had chosen to do Thor: Love and Thunder. And because that movie bombed, they're stalling on the project.
Oh,
Yeah, fuck him.
that's yeah. We're about to leave, but this is
Grow
a
up,
future.
hair, Taika.
Oh,
And also-
he gives it.
And
Thank
also,
you,
fuck you for cheating on your wife.
And thank you for Warner Brothers for having a pair to tell him no. No, we're not doing it. I want to say we're going to go. I'm not going to bring on this, but in the future, down the line, I don't care, Wolf. I just want to be, it doesn't have to be a whole show. I would like to discuss what is going on with Warner Brothers because I actually like what James Gunn is doing. And I don't mean in front, but in behind the scenes as well. It's been big topic, but I like that. I think that he's putting a lot of stuff on hold, and I don't think it's for a bad reason. I think he realizes it needs some cleaning up, and they just can't release anything right now. But we'll look down the line because I actually like his decisions that he's making. I'm all for his decisions, including the controversy with Wonder Woman 3. I like
everybody.
his decisions.
Start preparing your goodbye. Starting with the Leia Valor, Leia plus size.
This is Leia plus size, your lovely Lady of Valor, and I want to thank all of you to join us today for this discussion. As Wolf said, if you have any thoughts on any topics you want us to rant about, please leave comments for that. Wolf is opening the door for you guys to now have the power to give us the topics that we are going to talk about. So we are going to listen to you. So hopefully we will be hearing a lot from you guys in the coming year. Until then, you all have a good evening and see you soon.
Something I should have done when the community tab was appropriately offered to us some sometime in the middle of this year. Or was it always there back then? I'm such a boomer on this shit.
Well, you can still do it. You're opening the door for a top. So you
I'm
can
still
do it.
doing it. I'm going to be
Mhm.
continuing to do it. By the way, Final Fantasy is the winner of the season 2 poll.
Congrats, Final. They love you.
Woohoo! I know.
Yeah. Yes.
He ain't had to work that damn hard either. And I think they love you because of the way how you bounce off of me.
Well, likely
And
the
Schooner
case,
is
yeah.
still and in the season 1, Schooner's still getting the love. He ahead
Yeah,
at
You're
40%.
tied with him. You're tied with him, though. Both of you got 38%.
Not anymore.
Wait,
Not anymore. I'm
wait, what?
27%.
So
Out
Final
of
has
11 votes, some of those votes went to Schooner. Schooner's at 40%, and I'm at 27.
right, Scoony.
Trooper score went down at 9%. I don't know how the polls work. I think the polls they tend to shift depending on how you vote. So whoever's getting the most votes, I think the votes are kind of adjusting according to the highest vote.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what it's doing. I'm not sure, but somehow somehow you are now ahead of Trooper Leia. You're at 13%. Guys, speaking of community, please go check out those polls. Vote for who your favorite your not host your who's your favorite character of this panel? The Wolf Commander, the Leia of Valor, the Warrior of Light, the Square of Tuna, the Trooper, the Bear of the North, the Georgia Pit Bull, the Deseret Bull, even the Hound of the South, Dominic Powell. Is he your favorite as well? And the Maverick Hunter Saint. Come on, give him some love, guys.
He
I know
hasn't
he
been on the
don't.
show for a while.
I know. I know. One of these days I'm about to make it where Brian does get to join us for a spell, and one of these days I'll find a way to get Owen on us. One of these days, just for old times' sake, because he started this with me, and I can't leave him. I can't leave him out. And Owen, if you're hearing this, if you made it this far at the tail end, you go ahead and you suggest Guyver over at the Manga Studies. Because I would definitely do a Manga Studies of Guyver with you. Unfortunately, he's not I don't think he's an evening man. Not that I know of. I think he's more of a weekend man. We all have to, if we had to do Manga Studies with him, it'll have to be a Saturday or a Sunday. One of them. Sorry. Let me continue. The Schooner Tuna.
Coming at you live from a secret government facility buried deep underground, but with excellent Wi-Fi, this is Schooner Tuna. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, if you like the show, help the channel grow, right? And if you have any suggestions, drop them right down there in that little comment booth. Come on, if this is any example, people, just give us a suggestion and we'll talk about it. Till that time, this is Schooner Tuna signing off. Bloop, 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 bloop.
The Warrior of Light Final Fantasy Fan 12.
Well, that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you saw, click like and subscribe and share with your family and friends. And make sure you ring that notification bell. That way you get notified of our latest videos. Go subscribe to Wolfted Media if you haven't already. Go subscribe to me if you haven't already. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Final Fantasy Fan 12 signing off. And remember, may the light forever shine upon us.
It's been your welcome in the Wolftan. Remind you guys once again, you are the UN Spacey. Welcome to the Wolf Fleet.